America is and has been the most powerful country in the world for some time. Whoever the president is, therefore, is the most powerful person in the world. The world watches their every move. It's their responsibility to show strength mentally and physically. Of course, no one expects the president to be the smartest or the strongest person in the country. That's me. But they need to show they are capable. Ronald Reagan was vigorous for his age. He could ride a horse like no one's business. Slick Willie didn't just play the sax. He liked to throw on a sweatsuit and jog all around town. It was a Secret Service nightmare, but hey, at least he wasn't fooling around with the interns. Who can forget when George W. Bush threw the first pitch at Yankee Stadium or dodged both shoes thrown at him by the Iraqi? The man was an athlete. Obama played full-court basketball while he was at the White House. He even ended up with a busted lip and 12 stitches after one game. And then the guy who did it got thrown in Gitmo. Don't get me started on Trump. Not only was he the best presidential golfer in history, but you try pulling off those dance moves after a 2-hour rally. And we don't have time to go through all the war heroes who were president. And that brings us to Biden. We've been raising concerns about his health for some time now. Joe did most of the 2020 campaign from his basement, but his campaign tried to sell him as Carl Lewis.
Some people are always in a hurry. They run when they could walk, race up steps when others take it slow. When Joe Biden's president, America is just going to have to keep up.
The media fetishized the running man and didn't ask any questions about his ticker, his brain, or his balance. Just like in 2016, when Hillary used to have coughing fits and had to be chucked into her Scooby van after collapsing on 9/11. They said you weren't allowed to talk about her health and that she was just dehydrated. But when Trump walked slowly down a ramp, a very wet and very steep and very dangerous ramp, the entire media establishment wanted to invoke the 25th Amendment.
Questions about Trump's health as he defends his walk down a ramp and his drink from a cup.
He's dragging his leg. He's struggling to walk on a ramp. He's struggling to drink a glass of water.
You see the video of him walking down that ramp at West Point really slowly, really haltingly kind of. And then you also saw the video of him seeming to have difficulty lifting a glass of water. And I'm not making light of this. You know, these are issues to be concerned about.
No, they're not. This is just the media rigging the election for Biden. And now their puppets falling apart right before our very eyes. We've seen Joe trip several times while walking up the stairs to Air Force One. And that's just been what's caught on video. Right before Biden came to the White House, he broke his foot chasing his dog out of the shower. The media ignored it all. They were hoping if they didn't talk about it, we wouldn't notice. But the president had a cast on his foot for a while, and a bunch of reporters probably asked if they could sign his cast. This weekend, it happened again. Joe was on yet another vacation in Delaware when he forgot to do the one thing you're not supposed to forget, which is ride a bike. We're not here to make fun of the president. We don't want to kick a man while he's down on the ground after falling off a stationary bike. We're most concerned. I mean, he's the most powerful man in the world, and he just fell over and slammed into the pavement. This should be on the front page of every paper, the lead in every newscast, but it's not. Brian Stelter, who covers the media, or at least says he does, is fighting for his life to save his job, and he talked about it this way.
Even standard photo ops seem to be going sideways for Biden right now. Of course, the news media shapes these narratives, chooses what video to show, maybe warps these narratives.
Well, Brian, for the first time ever, is right. The network Sunday News didn't even show the video of the leader of the free world going splat on the pavement. The networks are still covering up for Joe Biden's frail and failing presidency. Don't forget, Stelter was one of the guys propping him up during the campaign.
This is Joe Biden out there on a vigorous bike ride. Not wearing a helmet, but definitely wearing a mask, by the way. Fox's narrative and talk radio's narrative for months has been that Joe Biden is falling apart. You just heard Ben Shapiro say it, falling apart. And there he is riding a bike,
This is how this works. The media tells Americans Biden's healthy to get him elected. And then after he's elected, they cover up him falling off his bike. After Joe gets up, he tells the media he's fine. Here's CNN telling us what the president told them after they watched the president fall off his bike. The president is not fine. This is the second time he's fallen. He's almost 80. Why are reporters just writing down what politicians tell them and calling it fact? Later, Biden took questions from reporters who watched him fall, and this happened.
You're lifting the tariffs?
We're in the process of making up my mind.
We are in the process of making up my mind? What? Who is we? Is that the concussion talking? Has Biden been evaluated by a doctor? Well, who cares? Biden can hop around like a bunny rabbit. Good enough for the media. Watch this.
Mr. President, how are you feeling? How are you feeling, sir? Good.
And today, while strolling on the beach during his 3-day vacation, Biden said falling off the bike wasn't his fault at all. If anything, it was the bike's fault.
Whoa. Let me take a few questions and then let me walk with my family, okay? I'm feeling great. I'm feeling great. What happened was, any of you guys ride bikes? Well, they have some that have this thing you put your toe in. When I was getting off the bike, it got stuck on the right side. I fell, in case you didn't notice.
But it's good that you're okay.
I was fine.
He's not fine. The country isn't fine. The economy isn't fine. None of this is normal. And he plagiarized my collar. That's my look. When Ronald Reagan was questioned about if his age would impact the presidency, he finessed it with this comeback.
I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit, for political purposes, my opponent's youth and inexperience.
Biden hasn't had a physical since November. He's had 2 aneurysms, and he's even making less sense in interviews these days.
You turn on the TV, look at the ads. When's the last time you saw biracial couples on TV? When's the last time you saw the way, people are selling products, they do ads to sell products, and they sell products when they appeal to people.
What is he talking about? No one knows what he's talking about. And why is he always going to Delaware? Why isn't he working in the White House? Why is he always trying to escape the White House? And why is he always so flip and cranky?
Mr. President, will you talk to make up your mind on China soon?
I will not talk to you on my vacation. Yes, now I'm going to be talking to him.
And when he is working, he's got the lightest schedule in modern presidential history. He calls a lid before the sun goes down and takes more 3- and 4-day weekends than Gutfeld. The American people were sold a faulty product. We knew it during the campaign, but we were told to shut up about it. It was just a conspiracy theory, we were told. And now that he's president, he can't do the job he was elected to do. And we have $5 gas, no baby formula, and a president who forgot how to ride his bike.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.